All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October District 1 breakfast. This year is flying by. Glad you all could tune in. I will keep my stuff short today because we have our amazing Housing and Community Services Director here, Sally Stang. Just getting started. For those of you who might not have gotten the newsletter or seen in the news, we did lose a giant in the community in Mike Kadar this last week. He did so many things. I didn't know him the best. I always knew of the picture man and all the work that he did as a mentor and ref, and I got to know him more during our campaign and learned much more about him. But he did leave a wonderful legacy of history in this community from all the photography he did on his website. So if you go Google My Picture Man, you'll see it pop up, and you can see going back to the 90s different events that happened in this community and meetings, political things when our former mayor, Carl Brewer, announced he was running for mayor. There's photos from that. So just a wealth of history that he did. We all definitely appreciate all that he did for this community and his service on the school board, as well as in other areas in this community. So we did lose him. Danielle and I are praying for his family and close friends. In addition to that, if you missed our economic development workshop last week, we are changing many of our tools in the city of Wichita to benefit more of our smaller businesses. Yes, we still have work to do, but we are making some good strides. In the newsletter, there's a link to that if you want to watch the workshop. If not, at the city council meeting on Tuesday, we'll actually be voting on those as a council to make those actual permanent policies. So if they pass, there's a lot of good there. One of the things that I have been talking about for a number of years is looking at how we can use some of the revenues made in CID districts that we may feel or know are not necessary in those areas. So one good area to talk about is like 13th and Greenwich. That area is ripe for development. It's going to develop anyway. And if we're putting in some dollars that come from different CID districts into street infrastructure there, that was already going to happen. But if we could use those dollars in lower income areas or areas that truly need some investment, I felt our city could do much better with that. And over the last couple of years, city staff continued to look at that and see if these things were possible, and came up with what's called an origination fee that would allow us the ability to do that. And per the workshop, kind of focus more on land banking and affordable housing, which is a definite need, especially in lower income areas. And I believe that generational wealth can be created from owning a home. Even if it's just a starter home to get started with and you own it, that's something you can borrow against, something that appreciates if you keep it up. So it's a great initiative. You can check out the workshop to learn more about it. And again, tune in on Tuesday because there'll be another presentation about it before the council votes. Another thing, there's a lot of controversy around the census right now, mostly political, around a judge ordering an extension until the end of October and the administration trying to shorten that time frame. No matter what's going on, I encourage you, while that link is still there, at my2020census.gov, to go take it. And whether that link disappears in a couple of days or at the end of October, it's imperative that we all take that. In the newsletter, we put a few stats, but for every 1% of the Kansas population that's uncounted, so those who don't take it, the state of Kansas could miss receiving more than $603 million. That's over a 10-year period. So that's $500 million and some that we could miss out for every 1%. And we're not at 100% here in the state of Kansas. And we know with COVID and budget issues, and especially trying to take care of populations that need it, we need every dollar we can get to make sure that we fund things like affordable housing, community centers like this one, fire stations, health clinics, job training, literacy programs, parks, roads, schools, veteran programs. All of these receive funding by the count of the census. And if we don't, again, take it serious and make sure we're counted, we miss out. And I don't think that's right for any of us, because we all need some help somewhere, and all of our parks and roads and schools could receive more funding. So let's make sure that not only we've taken it, but friends, family, neighbors, just ask if they've taken it. And if not, they can call 1-844-330-2020 or go to my2020census.gov to go ahead and take the census today. And I've got two more before we get into our main presentation. For businesses that need help. So since March, when everything started with COVID, one of my key focuses was making sure that small business, the real small businesses, were getting help that they need and funding that they might need. And the county has a business grant assistance from the CARES funding that they're giving out. Businesses can apply to $5,000 through this. So I want to encourage everybody to go apply if you have a business, you need that, and you've been affected negatively by COVID, because it can benefit your business. And again, it's a grant. I know right now some of the congressional funding is starting to have that payback requirement, so we might be in difficult positions. This potential $5,000 can be a benefit. And the last time I checked, the county had not maxed out the available dollars for the business grant. So again, if you have a business that's struggling because of COVID, check that out. Check out the requirements and apply for it. You might just get up to $5,000. And then lastly, we won't have a breakfast before November other than today. So upcoming Halloween celebrations. We did also include in the newsletter some guidance from the CDC, specifically looking at Halloween and how it is a higher risk activity. I know we don't want to take things away from our young people, but there are safer ways to do it. But it is discouraged to have that really close contact. Lots of folks putting their hands into bowls full of candy. We should discourage that. If you are out getting candy, make sure that you're sanitizing those items when you get home. Again, check out the newsletter. A lot of good alternatives in there. So having a virtual Halloween costume contest, you do that. Decorating your house, apartment, or living space, carving or decorating pumpkins with members of your household, doing that same thing outside, socially distanced with friends, having a scavenger hunt style trick or treat within your household with your household members. All of those things are safe. And again, although it's a bit annoying and a bit of an inconvenience, this is a once in a generation pandemic, and it's a sacrifice for 2020. That doesn't mean life is going to change completely and drastically forever. We've just learned a lot more trying to be safe right now to make sure that we don't spread this anymore, and then go forward with some safer practices as we continue to celebrate. But this year is a sacrifice. I think we all are tired of it. I'm not always a fan of these, but I do it because it's safe for me and safe for you. And the social distancing and not seeing people, I know that that can be a bit of annoyance as well. We love to hang out with one another. That's how we are as humans. But again, this is just a short-term sacrifice this year because of this pandemic. So with that, my only other update is we have a new district advisory board member, Joseph Tex Dozier, representing Crown Heights. So glad to see him join our district advisory board. He'll be at the meeting on Monday, so want to welcome him. He brings a great wealth of knowledge and expertise to the DAB, so looking forward to that. And we still have openings. If you live in the southern part of District 1, I'd love to see you apply. That would be definitely south of Kellogg, but potentially south of Douglas. But we need some more representation from the south part of the district. So if you're interested, you live there, please apply. Once you do and I receive your application, I'll reach out to you. We can have a conversation about the district advisory board, what all it means, what the responsibilities are, and we can go from there. So with that, I will pause and see if there were any questions for me on Zoom or Facebook. 30 seconds to a minute. That's why.
financial district.
We also have another special guest this morning. We have Ms. Kay Morgan from Wichita State University to give us a update.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me this morning, and Camila for the invitation. I wanted to just stop by on behalf of Wichita State and share with you all a couple of things that are happening in District 1, particularly as it relates to Shocker Neighborhood. And we're working really hard to, some of you may be familiar with the Shocker Neighborhood concept. It's been a thing, if you will, since probably 2015, 2016, a result of a grant that Wichita State was able to secure from the Kansas Health Foundation and run by our Public Policy Management Center. And as things have evolved and we've had some success working with Fairmont Neighborhood Association, the decision has been made in partnership with Councilman Johnson that we're able to expand that particular effort. And so Shocker Neighborhood now will include I-35 to Oliver and K-96 to Central. And so the office, a new division at Wichita State that's called the Regional Engagement and Economic Development, will be working really hard to partner with the community and partner with county and the city and lots of other entities in order to bring much needed resources and amenities to that community. Just this last week, we announced that we're starting to have conversations with interested parties around a concept called University Village, which might be lend itself to development that could be brought into District 1, particularly along 17th Street, in order to just beautify the community, bring some much needed resources and amenities. And so if you have an interest in keeping an eye on that development or the discussions related to that development, I encourage you to follow our YouTube channel, because lots of things at Wichita State are posted there, and you can find a copy of the town hall that was held just last Wednesday afternoon, and we'll bring you all up to speed. And the other thing I wanted to share is that Wichita State University is celebrating its 125th anniversary. And so we are high into the celebratory spirit in the COVID social distance world. So trying to figure out some ways where we can still have a little bit of levity and celebration. And so our homecoming is coming up the week of October 20th, I think, it starts the 20th. And one of the things that we'd like to host, or that we're planning to host, is what we're calling Flicks on the Field. And so we are inviting those members of the Shocker neighborhood and the community. And if you live in District 1, come on over. We won't ID you to grab an area of grass over at Cessna Stadium, bring a blanket, bring your family and your kids, and watch a movie that will be beamed up on some really huge screen. We just want to get folks together. There'll be circles or squares, however they decide to do it, where you'll have your own little family plot, if you will, to grab a spot and watch a movie. It's a Thursday night. I think we start at 6. Postcards and posters are being printed now, and we'll certainly get those over to as many outlets in District 1 as we can to make sure that folks, residents, are aware of this particular opportunity, and just an opportunity to open Wichita State up to our surrounding community, to ensure that you all understand and we believe that Wichita State is Wichita's university, and we want you all to be engaged in our celebration. And so we'd like to invite you to join us for a movie. I think the movie is a kid's movie. It might have been the 1980s, Hocus Pocus, with Bette Midler. And so lots of opportunity to laugh and play and get the kids outside and enjoy a little family fun.
So October 19th through 24th would be the Monday is the 19th.
Monday,
So
24th.
the 22nd, the Thursday would be the 22nd.
That is correct. Thursday night, the 22nd, 6 p.m. I think it begins, and there'll be vendors there where you can purchase food and just kind of hang out. Bring a sweatshirt. It'll be a little chilly maybe for fall night, and have some fun.
Do you know if lawn chairs will be accepted or not?
You know, I don't know that I've heard conversation about lawn chairs, but absolutely, it is a lawn. We can sit on a blanket. We can sit in a chair, I think.
So we have a minute delay on Facebook if we want to hold to see if any comments or anything come off of that. Does anyone on Zoom have any questions or comments for Ms. Kay Morgan from Wichita State University? You can unmute yourself.
No, thank you.
Hi, Lonnie.
Good to see everybody.
Good to see you too, Ronnie.
I like to watch both on Facebook and Zoom.
So he can hear you laugh.
That's fun.
Yeah, I don't see any Facebook questions.
Awesome. Happy to have you back.
And just one more follow-up, we can get the flyer / graphics for the Hocus Pocus movie and share that out later on this
Absolutely.
week.
They are available. I saw them come in my in-basket last night at about 6:30 last night, so folks were working hard and heavy to get those. We'll go to print on Monday. We're going to try to do some select mailings out to neighborhoods around the community. We're going to try to connect with all of the local schools that serve Shocker neighborhood. There'll be posters. They'll be available. You will need to register. There's a QR code you can just scan or you can call here to the Atwater Center and get registered. And we're only asking folks to do that so that we can make sure we have enough squares for all the folks who plan to attend. And so it's not a big deal for your registration. We just need to, in COVID days, we need to be able to plan and space out. So if you would register, that would be really helpful. You can do that by scanning the QR code that will be both on the poster and any other materials that are provided. Certainly we'll put it out, working with Camila and the councilman on all types of the district social media, so it'll be available there. We'd love to see the community come out.
All right, I don't see any other questions on Facebook. So, Kay, we definitely appreciate you being here.
Absolutely,
Okay.
thanks for the invitation.
Got the WSU face mask.
We'll represent, and always represent.
Well, I'm definitely excited about the things that Kay spoke about at the University Village announcement. And I appreciate the administration being at the table with development going on and having a voice and taking into consideration what the community wants as well. That's a big deal. And so I'm definitely grateful for that and looking forward to continuing that dialogue and conversation and development. And the expansion of Shocker neighborhood is awesome too.
Yeah,
So we're gonna have fun walking that neighborhood. So other than that, I still don't see any questions. So our next speaker will be our Director of Housing and Community Services. She has a wonderful presentation on all the work she's been doing. Personally, I'm really excited that we made the decision to hire Sally. Sally has been a breath of fresh air, a wealth of knowledge since she started. All of the random technical questions that I've had, Sally has an answer to. Sally has these creative ideas and connections to HUD that have been a great benefit to the city of Wichita, more so than I think most people imagine. So I'm excited for Sally to be here. She's been doing a lot of great work that I don't think we always get to, and sometimes it's in the middle of the newsletter. If you don't scroll down and see all of that stuff, you may not, but work around homeless services and everything else that people ask us about. Sally has been wonderful with that, and looking forward to everything she's going to continue to do here in the city of Wichita. So with that, I will turn it over to Sally.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here today. An opportunity to talk about all of the great things that we're doing in the Housing and Community Services Department. Before we jump into the presentation, I did want to echo what you talked about with the census, because every single program I'm going to talk about today is affected by those census numbers. And these are critical programs that affect our community greatly. And for every additional, if we can get everybody to complete that census, we're just going to have more resources to help more people. So please complete your census. So, I do have, I think, 8 topics talked about today. When I got the list, I went, oh, this is only an hour and a half meeting. I could probably talk for 3 hours on these things. So I will hit some of it pretty fast. If you do have any questions, please feel free to slow me down. The first item we're going to talk about, yes,
PowerPoint is officially up. So
okay.
you can tell me when you're ready to advance each slide. I'm on the first one and I will try to navigate this full screen. Lonnie, can you see the full screen on the Zoom call? Can you see the first PowerPoint slide?
Yes, I'm seeing it on the Zoom call.
Do you see the little slides on the side or just one page? You're muted, Lonnie.
Slides on the side. Just popped up on Facebook.
Okay. Now you're on your first one that says Public CARES Act. Is that the first, is that your second slide?
That's the second slide.
There we go, we're on your second slide.
So first slide, CARES Act, COVID-19 initiatives. So we did receive CARES Act funding in multiple programs. And so they all have different rules and different requirements. So keeping those straight and programming them has been a lot of fun. The first category that we have is CARES money that we received under the Community Development Block Grant Program from HUD. And so we've provided additional funding for domestic violence shelter providers and youth enrichment programming providers. One of the biggest things that we saw, aside from what you would expect related to COVID, right? Additional expenses for sanitation and PPE supplies. One of the biggest things that have hit our nonprofits is they're challenged in getting volunteers to continue working because it's a challenging environment. People don't want to put themselves at risk if they don't have to. So one of the first things they cut is their volunteer activities, which has been very challenging for our nonprofits in the community. We've been doing a food box program for elderly public housing residents in the elderly properties. That started with the Blue Cross Blue Shield grant that we had received, and we've continued that with CDBG. And then we're expanding it to seniors that live in single-family homes in public housing and in the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So the first food box for that group is actually going out in October. And if there's enough funding, we're hoping to be able to do a holiday box in December. So that's
Sally, can I, behind the scenes, stop and help the community understand? When you say housing voucher, you mean what some of us know as Section 8 and public housing, correct?
Well,
Or-
that's why I could say in public housing.
Okay.
In public housing, those are properties that we actually own and manage. And in Section 8, those are the properties where we provide rent assistance in privately owned properties in the market. Yes. Additional.
It's Lonnie.
Okay. Do you have a
I
question?
don't quite hear Sally very loud. Did you talk about the remodeling of the houses?
No, we haven't.
It's coming up. She's gonna say it in a few minutes.
Sorry, thank you.
No problem. We've also just begun an internet program to help offset costs for USD 259 to be able to provide high-speed internet to families with children that are living in public housing in the Section 8 voucher program through Cox Connect to Compete program. That's just got launched about a week ago. Our first 99 families that opted in for that were sent over to Cox to get that started. We're going to continue to accept opt-ins from those families through the end of October.
Lonnie, can you hear her better now?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
You are officially hired as the District 1 Breakfast Volunteer Tech Person.
Tech assistant.
Tech Assistant.
Perfect. We've also begun subsidizing the Wi-Fi hotspots that are available through all the neighborhood resource centers as another means to try and get people connected to broadband where they don't have it. It is so important on so many levels to have that connectivity. We've also funded the neighborhood resource centers money so that they can send out outreach material into the neighborhoods to make families aware of resources that are available. And in the works from CDBG funding, we're developing a rent assistance program, additional one. As we prepare for that, we've launched an impact survey for landlords because we recognize that
it has been just as hard on landlords as it has been on residents to try and make sure that they can pay the bills, to keep the lights on. It is a multifaceted issue. And so we have a survey, there's a link to it on the PowerPoint for landlords to complete. And we're hoping to do a heat map and be able to GIS, where is the biggest impact, where landlords have the most cases of people that are struggling economically. Yes, ma'am.
The link is also in the District One newsletter that was posted on Facebook and emailed to District One residents last night.
Perfect. Thank you so much for getting the word out on that. If that link will be available until October 11th, we're really hoping to also be able to hit the smaller landlords, the mom and pop landlords that might just have one or two residents and don't necessarily know that there are resources available. So we're hoping through that survey, we can really learn where the need is the greatest and focus our efforts in doing outreach to those areas, especially in lower income and higher minority population areas that sometimes are underserved with these types of resources. So that's part of the reason we are waiting to launch that additional rent assistance program until we get some more information from the survey. Yes, ma'am.
Lonnie, you have a question or comment? You came off mute.
Well, I am concerned about the people that are going to run out of that moratorium. So I appreciate Sally explaining you're getting a survey to see how extensive that's going to be.
Exactly.
But it seems like that's going to be a big problem. People haven't paid rent for 6 months, and all of a sudden it's due. So is somebody expecting we're going to have a lot of people in that situation?
We are speculating that we are, and that's why we're hoping that the survey is going to give us more concrete data so that we can try and prepare for that. One little side note, we do fund homeless prevention rent assistance with the Emergency Solutions Grant. And we've done that for years, and we have additional funding for that. But the CDC rent eviction moratorium actually caused a little hiccup because in order to use those funds, someone actually has to be under eviction. And that's where we said, well, wait a minute, these landlords are going to be hurting if they, can't pay their bills. How can we prepare, one, for January 1st, if the moratorium is allowed to expire? And then two, this funding that I was just talking about in CDBG doesn't have that same requirement. So that's why we were like, okay, here's a different pot of funds to try and attack the same issue and trying to get ahead of it before the moratorium expires. Okay, next slide, yeah. We also received a pot of money, a small pot of money actually, in the Public Housing Authority programs for CARES Act funds. That was really dedicated to making sure we have the sanitation and PPE supplies and to improve technology so that we could still do business with our residents, but distance and in a way that's accessible to them. So as you see, one of the things we're funding is we're providing additional funding to the Neighborhood Resource Center staff to be able to provide a customer service to our PHA clients. We're doing some upgrades to our housing systems that will allow people to complete their certifications entirely online, be able to attend meeting and submit applications online and adjust those applications.
I got off on your PowerPoint slide.
Mhm.
Which number?
I am on slide 3.
Where is it?
Public Housing Authority CARES funds.
There we go.
And then what we do have a project in the works to put self-serve kiosks in each of the neighborhood resource centers and one at City Hall, which will allow people to come in, do business, be able to scan and send documents actually to any city employee, not just housing. I'm promoting this to other city departments and saying, we're launching this as a housing initiative, but there's no reason why you couldn't use the same functionality if people want to register for parks programs or do other activities that they would do normally in person, to be able to do that either from a neighborhood resource center or from the first floor of City Hall. So that is definitely in the works. We hope to be receiving those kiosks before the first of the year. And then we received a pocket of money from the Community Service Block Grant Care Program. With that, we have been using that for emergency rent assistance and utility assistance. It can also be for mortgage assistance. for someone affected by COVID-19. And we're also funding technology upgrades for childcare providers and educational programs, because we do recognize that a lot of this remote learning is leaving gaps. And so we want to help make sure that those are funded well. We received a significant portion of CARES Act and the Emergency Solutions Grant. And Emergency Solutions Grant funding is specifically for people who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. And I mentioned a bit of this a minute ago when I talked about the homeless prevention that we fund with Emergency Solutions Grants. As I said before, right now we have a pot of money for eviction prevention, but we won't actually be able to launch that until people are under eviction again. But we're also have done some other creative programs related to homelessness with that. We did have to extend Humankind's winter shelter for the months of April and May, because they were set to shut down at the end of March. Yes.
Side note, Humankind is the agency that was formerly Interfaith Ministries.
Correct.
And that language has not been known, and they switched names before Operation Holiday last year.
Yes, they did. Absolutely. Thank you for making that connection. For some people who might not connect, that Humankind is the former Interfaith Ministries. We also funded a hotel motel voucher program through United Way for homeless individuals that either tested positive, were symptomatic and waiting test results, so that they could isolate in hotel rooms rather than infect others in shelters. We've also initiated a homeless caseworker program. So caseworkers working with people on the by name list of known homeless individuals in our community to try and move them into housing. That's the greatest solution of all, right? That's the best way to isolate them, is let's get them into the housing resources that are available. We have an item coming before the council on Tuesday for a landlord incentive program, trying to incentivize landlords to take a chance and rent to people who are coming out of homelessness. And the incentive program provides for funding for damages or unpaid rent during that first year if for some reason it doesn't work out. Another item coming to the council on Tuesday is a social worker.
Sally?
Yes.
Could you say that again about the landlords and some damage consideration?
Yes, so we are proposing a program to provide funding for landlords that take a chance and will lease to somebody coming out of homelessness. And during that first year of their lease, if they cause damages or leave with unpaid rent, this is a source of funds that could help make them whole. There's also a provision that would allow us to pay them to hold a unit for, like, if you need them to hold it for a week, so that we could get the person ready and vouchered and into a unit, that we could pay them to hold that unit for that homeless individual. So this is new. We're actually being lauded by HUD for doing this, because they do recognize that that's the hardest group of individuals to get leased up in the community. So, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next one is a social worker internship program. We're looking to start this as a generic opportunity for us to work with Newman University to be able to hire MSW students to do social work in different areas. This one is particularly targeted for homeless outreach. So we would make an internship opportunity available. These are paid internships for their students to come on to get some, on-the-job training, working with homeless individuals, trying to tie them to resources in the community, and working hand in hand with the homeless outreach team, so that to support that, not replace it, and again, our goal is to move more and more of those experiencing homelessness into housing. And then we, like I said before, homeless prevention funding through Salvation Army and Center of Hope. That will, I'm sure, start running really fast once the moratorium is lifted. And then we're also working on additional non-congregate shelter. We're really fearful this winter, again, that we will not have enough shelter space, distanced shelter space, for homeless individuals in our community. So we're working to try and provide additional resources for that.
We did have one question. Lori Lawrence asked, what are the ideas to prevent homelessness ahead of time? Preventing poverty, making well-paying jobs available, having training so people can qualify for those jobs is the best way to avoid homelessness. It's more systemic. It's a more systemic problem than just housing.
I absolutely agree. And I think when we get to topic 4, we're gonna hit on some of that those very ideas. And that is definitely our goal too. And we recognize it is so much easier to prevent someone from getting into homelessness than it is to get them back. So definitely. So that actually wraps up CARES Act funding and COVID-19 initiatives. And we're going to go ahead and move on to specifically homeless funding. This gets asked a lot. So I know there's a table here that lines out a lot of activities going on. These are activities in addition to everything we've just talked about related to the CARES Act. So these next activities are the ones that we fund year after year. So the first area we're looking at is funding we receive under the Emergency Solutions Act. We only receive about $250,000 a year, but we do pass that money through to homeless service providers in our community. And if you notice on the list, if you see the PowerPoint, we hit most of them in the community. Catholic Charities Harbor House, St. Anthony Family Shelter, Interfaith Inn through Humankind, Salvation Army, United Methodist Open Door, Wichita Family Crisis Center. They're all providing homeless assistance. Again, homeless prevention. Every year we fund agencies to provide homeless assistance. Usually if you see those amounts, they're very, very small. $25,000 a year, to Center of Hope, and just over 13 to Salvation Army. We are proposing to provide each of those agencies an additional $100,000 to start employing in January 1st. So we are definitely recognizing the need. We have a rapid rehousing program.
Hold on, Lonnie, let her finish this slide, please.
We have a rapid housing program that is really designed for those folks that have just entered into homelessness, that may have enough resources that if we can get to them quickly, they can turn things around. So it's short-term rent assistance, 3 to 6 months to help somebody stabilize, coupled with case management to align with job search and job training to try and get people to stabilize and move on. And then homeless management information system and administration, of course. So that's what we fund annually using HUD's Emergency Solutions Grant. And Lonnie had a question?
You'll have to unmute yourself, Lonnie.
Does Shelter First come through one of these programs?
Oh, Housing First? That's actually on my next slide if you're talking about Housing First.
Could be. It's both the county fund Shelter First, where they put homeless people in a place to live, then deal with their social issues, and then at the end, deal with employment.
Yes, you got it. The very next slide. Yep. It talks about the Housing First program. This program has been in place since 2009. It is a collaboration between the city and the county, and they both invest just under $200,000 a year of general fund to support the Housing First program. Housing First really is the model that seems to have the best outcomes. We went through a period decades ago where people thought people needed to earn their way out of shelter by being sober for a period of time and hitting some benchmarks before you get into housing. And they've really come to learn that oftentimes people can't focus on those other things if they don't have safe and stable housing. I mean, it's your hierarchy of needs. If you don't feel safe and secure, how can you even work on your employment issues or your substance abuse issues, let alone self-actualization, right? So it's not 100%, I guarantee you that. But we see much greater success if we're able to move someone into housing, get them safe and secure, and then start working on the issues. And so we've had great success with the Housing First program. We work hand in hand with the HOT team to identify chronically homeless. We are addressing those who oftentimes have been homeless for years, putting them into housing, and then start working on other issues. So it is a fabulous program. It is the one program that we turn to when we have those most challenging cases. So we do have that, you'll see that funding is about $451,000 a year that goes into that. The next one is the Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing. So that is a partnership between HUD and the VA to provide vouchers specific for homeless veterans, and the VA provides the case management services. So we have just a little over $1 million that comes to the housing department to provide that housing assistance side of that. And then January 1st of this year, the council, as the housing board, approved a homeless preference program, which allowed for us to provide a preference for those experiencing homelessness that are referred from homeless service agencies to receive a housing choice voucher, again, become stably housed, and then work on all of the other issues. So that's a little over $3.5 million that we're expending on an annual basis. Couple that with the CARES Fund, we're looking to expend over $5 million this year on homeless services. Okay. Any questions on homeless? Great. The next item we're talking about is the Individual and Family Development Program that happens through the Wichita-Sedgwick County Community Action Partnership, which is the division within the Housing Department. Have enough acronyms in our lives, right? They do a lot of work, and we call it WISCAP. They do a lot of work. This particular program kind of addresses what was brought up before, which is having services available for families or individuals who can create goals and be provided resources to either attain employment, job training, job placement, budgeting, homeownership counseling. It is a very comprehensive program, but that it's individualized to the individual person or family's needs. Their principles are to earn it, keep it, and grow it. They have a means and they have resources to leverage other resources in the community, such as homeownership programs and individual development accounts, savings accounts. And we fund a lot of job training. We've seen a lot of medical training requests coming in, a lot of CDL license training, and we're able to actually fund that training for families that participate with the WISCAP counselors. So that falls right in that line of, can we get in front of people before things go bad, or as things are starting to happen in people's lives, here's a resource and somebody to turn to try and find the resources necessary to stabilize the person or the family. So great program. That is also the program that has been administering the emergency assistance program that I referenced earlier in the CARES funding, where we can pay rent, mortgage, or utility assistance for families affected by COVID. That's been part of our challenge, is the funding requires that the person have been affected by COVID. And we know many have. Sometimes verifying that is a challenge. And someone laughed and said, why is that a challenge? And I said, you have a mom and pop bar that had to close down and their staff got laid off. Well, we're sending employment verifications to the mom and pop bar that's closed. It's like, we're not getting the information back to be able to verify this. So we've been working with the Workforce Alliance to try and develop a means for us to get a heads up when we know when someone's issuing layoffs, or how to contact businesses so that we can make this a smoother process as we have to verify people's eligibility for those funds. We are also, there's another program we're going to talk about at the end that we're going to be leveraging into the WISCAP program to even provide more services. So I'm very excited about that. Any questions on individual family development or WISCAP and what they do?
So little Tyler, 1 minute delay, so Facebook.
Give them a second.
Yeah.
Well, I like these presentations because I didn't know about that. Yeah. I read all the stuff I get, but sometimes just don't get all the details.
As far as like the self-sufficiency part?
Yeah.
So I, and truly, we're just having a casual conversation, try to explain to people when they come in our resource center, like, you want services, there's so some services are immediate, like if you go to Center for Hope. But if you really invest in this case management program, it's gonna help you sustain over a long time. So go for the ride, do the interview, and play along, you know? And we also have offered our resource center for WISCAP staff, city staff to come meet the person. So sometimes, oh, I really don't want my first visit to be in my home, even pre-COVID. It's like, well, come use one of our conference rooms or meeting rooms here. So we try our best to kind of nudge that. Don't just go for a quick fix sometimes. Get the case management service.
Yeah, commit to the long-term vision, right?
For yourself and your family.
And we, I have been talking to Janet about trying to get those WISCAP staff at the centers on a regular basis, and then COVID hit, and we're like, okay, we'll get that going.
We had a Canadian staff member, she faithfully used us as a meetup place. Let's just meet at Atwater. Let's just meet at Atwater, you know. And she championed. She brought her laptop and she did the work here. So that's what she had.
Yeah, I'd like to see us have like a standing 2 days a month that we're here for 4 hours or whatever, just for people who might want to come in. And, yeah, once things open up again, we're definitely headed down that path. So
If they start 2 hours or 1 hour if you want, because we have the space and the distance.
all right, ready to move on?
Sure.
No questions from Facebook.
Great. The next item I'm going to talk about is the rental assistance demonstration. This is a project that has been hanging since 2017. It's great, it's challenging. It is an effort to convert traditional public housing to a Section 8 contract rather than public housing. The reason you want to do that is the rules under public housing state that a project can have no debt. So the project is unable to take out loans to do major capital improvements because it can have no debt. HUD recognized this after 30 years of underfunding public housing to say, we cannot afford to give you the money to rehabilitate this. So what we're going to do is allow you to transfer those properties to another format that will allow you to take on debt. So this has been around. It's still considered a demonstration project, which is funny. It's been around since 2012, still in demonstration. We've had some significant challenges with the project. The original plan was to take 226 our senior units, put them together as one project, and then take the 352 single family homes and present that as a second project. So instead of having multiple projects, we're going to lump them into two. There have been challenges along the way. The senior project itself, we are about to get ready to close financing in February, which is, it's a milestone for us because it's been very, very challenging to get here. But it is definitely good news. And so starting in February, we are going to start construction on the vacant units at the two complex garden style complex sites of Rosa Gregg and Bernice Hutchison. This is also another change. Originally, all of those people were going to be moved into temporary relocation. But one of the benefits of the delay is we have a number of vacant units now, and we're able to go in and do this project in stages. So we'll be able to go in and rehabilitate the vacant units and then move the residents only once. And it's a permanent move across the courtyard from this unit to that unit, rather than having to move them off to temporary relocation, rehab the units, and then bring them all back. At the same time that that's happening, we are going to be moving the residents in the McLean Manor tower into Greenway Manor downtown. Because once again, we have enough vacant units at Greenway that we can take the existing residents from McLean and move them into Greenway. It's going to save the project a significant amount in temporary relocation. And they're going to be starting construction on McLean Manor. That construction is going to take about 10 months. The construction on the garden apartments, each phase will take 2 to 3 months. So once we complete the construction at McLean, the McLean residents will move back. And we will offer to any of the Greenway remaining residents, they could move into newly rehabbed units at either the garden apartments or McLean Manor. Or if they want to stay downtown, and I totally get why they'd want to do that, they'll go into temporary relocation while we do the construction on the tower at Greenway Manor. So it is going to take us through the end of 2022 to get all of the construction done, but I'm really excited. This is a $30+ million project to do the renovation. They will be like brand new buildings, all the systems replaced, all the interior finishes, exterior finishes, plumbing, electrical. We're very happy that it is getting moving again. We have had some hurdles along the way, but we are getting down there. So we have a tenant meeting scheduled for the residents of the senior buildings on October 8th, which will be the meeting right before submitting the financing plan to HUD for final approval. And we're looking at a February close in construction. So that's very, very good news that it's finally going to get there. The other challenge we've had is the 352 units of single family homes. So this one has been challenging on a number of levels. HUD was unwilling to provide us financing for the construction of the project as a whole. And they said the properties are too scattered to be managed and maintained well. And I said, well, I can't argue with you on that. We do the best we can to manage and maintain them now, but they are not ultimately set up to be managed and maintained well. And so that's been a challenge. So we attempted several different plans to try and figure out a way to secure the financing that's necessary to do the rehabilitation on those properties and have been unsuccessful. So our new plan actually in the end and with the long-term vision, I think is a better fit for the community is to request from HUD a different repositioning strategy that allows us to demolish units that need to be demolished. And there are 23 of them that we've said absolutely need to be demolished. They're in a floodplain, they have significant structural damage that would have been extremely costly to try and rectify, and then to sell the remaining. And we've been having conversations with nonprofit and for-profit developers in the community about being able to sell these in groups, smaller groups that are more manageable, more able to be maintained, with a preference for our nonprofit developers who are willing to keep them affordable rentals or affordable homeownership. The residents have the right of first refusal, of course, in both scenarios. So even just to buy it outright, which I don't think I'd want to recommend, just because the condition that they're in, I think would be a nightmare for a first-time home buyer. I think they'd be better off, I'm not going to tell them they can't, but working with Habitat and Mennonite and those groups to let them come in as the professionals, rehabilitate a unit, and then work with them to put them in there for home ownership. I think this is a beautiful, opportunity. But the other piece to this is it allows us to build replacement housing. And so for every unit that we dispose or demolish, HUD will allow us to build new replacement housing. And we would do that and build smaller, multiple units in smaller portfolios. So either not necessarily single family homes, but multifamily, not huge quantity. We don't want to build a big tower in any individual neighborhood, but we want enough density so that we can provide quality to resident services so that you get economies of scale for maintenance and management. So we're looking at 50 to 70 units tops, multiple locations across the city. Obviously, when I'm out there now scouting locations and going, where would be a great location for a 50-unit affordable housing complex? We want it to be near, good schools and transportation and other services. So that's going to come into play. So in the end, for every unit we move over through our partners, we get to replace it. And now that'll be the next phase challenge, but I see that as a means for one. We're taking one unit of affordable housing and turning it into two. in the long run. And we're invoking our partners, our developers in our community to help make this happen. And we've had great interest from the community on different units. We've had some that just are interested in maybe 4 units, and we have others that are looking at 50 or 60 units that they would like to have an opportunity to bid on. So it's a little scary for the residents. The residents are all protected. They will all be granted a Section 8 housing choice voucher if they want to choose to do that route, if they can't qualify for homeownership, or to continue if it's affordable rental. We're also adjusting our voucher policies to allow that we could do project-based vouchering in some of these when we're working with nonprofit developers who are willing to keep them affordable rentals for 20 years. So that they're guaranteed rent subsidy in those units, but they're smaller clusters that are more manageable and can maintain easier than 352 scratches throughout the community. So yes, it's a change in gears. That is the proposal. Actually, again, on Tuesday, we're bringing the PHA plan to the Housing Board for approval. It'll get submitted to HUD. They have till January 1st to approve it, effective for January 1st. Shortly thereafter, we will be making our request to HUD to use that methodology to demolish the few and sell the remainder of the portfolio. Yes.
We have 2 things in the chat. One is a prior comment that I missed, and another is new. So who do you ask to request rent assistance for veterans experiencing homeless? I know of that whose home just burned down and who is having trouble finding something affordable.
Those referrals start with the VA. So they would need to start at the VA, let them know that they're experiencing homelessness, and then they'll do the evaluation. And it's not just our services. There's SSVF, there are other homeless services coordinated through the VA, but they could possibly end up a referral through to the VASH program.
Then the new comment count goes to the rat homes. The longer the single family property sit boarded up and vacant, the more expensive it will become to rehab these. Is there any way to speed up the opportunity to start work on these?
Unfortunately, there's not. Until HUD will approve us to move to use this repositioning strategy, we're not allowed to do anything with them. And I absolutely agree. It has been very challenging dealing with the boarded up vacant units, especially with, it seems like since COVID hit, we saw more vandalisms. We saw a lot of things happening that appeared to us to be kids, honestly, just with nothing to do, but yeah. More than we were seeing prior to that.
And you do still have city staff maintaining the grass in each of those properties?
We actually have a contract. We do have a contract for that, yes. And but we manage the contract. And once in a while, we have to get on the contractor and go, hey, you missed this one. We've gotten a complaint about it.
And so we want to encourage the community, especially District 1 and Powell Atwater Center, if you notice or think a home is owned by the city, we can look that up with ease here and contact them if you see any vandalism or tall grass and weeds at a property that you believe the city owns.
Yes, absolutely. We absolutely appreciate the community's input. There are eyes too. That's one of the challenges of single family homes is we just don't have enough eyes on them. So we do rely on the community.
One question,
Yeah.
Facebook. When you demolish, what are the plans for the now vacant lots? That's a problem in neighborhoods like mine.
Absolutely. I'm hoping we'll get to a point where we'll have a land bank, and we would, once those lots are cleared, we would be able to use the land bank to market them. We would like them to remain affordable again, but to work with our nonprofit infill developers like Mennonite and Habitat and some of the others to be able to come in and build replacement single family homes. That they're all so scattered. When I first looked at the addresses, and you can imagine, we know where the floodplain is. So yes, it's all in kind of a targeted area. And I saw the addresses, I thought, wow, there might be an opportunity to assemble some and maybe do a small complex or do something else. And it's like, it's one here and then 3 houses and 1 here and 4 houses. And I'm like, well, that's not gonna work. So the only thing that really would work in there would be replacement single family homes, or possibly converting a vacant parcel to a pocket park for a neighborhood or something. That is definitely the goal.
When you talk about the land bank, is that the places people?
It's not in the middle of two houses.
I know. Oh, I agree, because I wouldn't want to live next to it either. We have a few that are on Cornish. Yes.
When you talk about the land bank,
So upcoming funding opportunities for nonprofits. We go through this process every year in preparation for the following year's funding from HUD for community development programs. We do an RFP process. And then we have a grants review board that reviews proposals. But based on the consolidated plan that was completed in 2019, the areas in which we have funding available are, we have CDBG funding for domestic violence shelter services and youth enrichment and crime prevention programs. Under the HOME program, we have funding available for community housing development organizations for obviously affordable housing development. And then in the emergency solutions grant, we have funding for homeless prevention services and homeless assistance and shelter services. So we put out an RFP. It goes out in about November. I say that because sometimes it slips into the first week of December. We start meeting with the grant, they're usually due after the first of the year, start meeting with the grants review committee by the end of January, and are bringing it to council for recommendation in March in preparation to submit the plan to HUD in April. So everything we do seems to have a very long planning and operations period, but that is the opportunity for nonprofit organizations to submit responses to those RFPs that are put out.
Question. Can a nonprofit receive the link or contact you now to say, hey, I would like to stay on your roster for upcoming opportunities?
Absolutely, yeah. Mark Stanberry in our office, he is the one who coordinates all that, and people contact him all the time and say, hey, can you make sure to put me on the list so when this comes out, I get an email. I do the same thing for developers that are interested in the rat houses, by the way. Send me your email if you want to know as soon as we're having meetings or issuing an RFP. I'll send the email out to the whole group. You don't want to read it, just I don't, just ignore it. But if you want to know what's going on, we have not come up with a schedule on those, going back to the rat houses, of how we're going to put them out, in what groupings. I mean, I think it would be crazy to put out all the 352 at once. It'll probably roll out in stages. We just haven't quite determined that yet. And that's why I keep this email group of people who are interested in being kept informed on that. Anytime something goes out, I just send it to the whole group. So, same thing for the funding opportunities for nonprofits, is they can be put on that list to be notified as soon as things are released.
I need to go put Mark's email in the Facebook chat. Yeah, take a break, breathe.
So I told you I could talk about this stuff for 3 hours, get into the details.
We are our own audience right now.
Well, during the break, I will say that the RAD program was something that was very exciting to me when we voted on that in February of 2018, and the possibility to, I believe I said, but I feel, treat those who are living in our affordable public housing with decency, and rebuilding those homes, even if we contract it out in smaller groups, is necessary. Just because someone is poor doesn't mean we have to treat them poorly. And in this way, they get brand new opportunities to live in a home that is basically brand new. Some of them is revitalized, some of them would be brand new. But that to me was very important, and I'm glad to see that it's continuing through all the struggles that we've had. But as I said before Sally spoke, Sally is amazing. And now you see why, with all the struggles, she's been able to help navigate that process and get us to this point. So I'm looking forward to seeing those units new and some form of ribbon cutting celebration for that, for folks moving in those. And again, all the work that the department does has been great.
Ready to move on? The Way to Work. So the Way to Work is a youth employment training program. This was our 13th year this year, and I have to say it was also our most challenging because of COVID-19. We were on the fence. Do we do it? Do we not? Do we do it? How do we do it? It was really, really challenging, but at the same time, we had so much interest from kids wanting to participate, wanting to have meaningful things to do, especially at that point. You know, we're in June, and most of them have been out of school since, not out of school, but doing remote learning since March, really needing to engage. And so it was definitely a challenge. They get on with the Way to Work generally in years past. It was 2 days a week, Monday and Friday. They had classroom training on, you know, job readiness, how to interview, how to create a resume, what are your expectations, even basic math and reading skills. We hired USD 259 teachers to come in and help us deploy this. And then for the 3 days in between, they were placed in job sites within city departments, within nonprofits, and some other organizations throughout the city to get on the job training and get paid for it. And we were able to pay through the grant the wages, and the organization gets free labor, but also provides a meaningful opportunity for these kids to get some job training. So this year was a little bit different because of COVID. We really tried to have the training sessions. They had to be done pretty much virtually or in very, very small groups and interactions. And then even the job placements, we had to be very careful that where we were going to place these kids was safe. And so it was a very, very challenging year this year. We did have 113 youth who came into the program and 97 that completed it, stayed employed for the whole period. We normally do 10 weeks. It was reduced down to 5 this year. We're using some of that additional unspent funding. All of those that finished the program and had positive employment evaluations are getting a laptop, a Chromebook provided by the program to all these kids. Our big challenge on that was getting them. With every school in the country clamoring for Chromebooks, they just came in yesterday. I'm like, wow. So we're looking to do a distribution day. I wish it could be a bigger celebration, but to be able to get those into the hands of the kids. But then I also, because we had some money left over, because the program didn't run so long, we're going to be issuing notices to all those 97 kids next week that there is continued employment opportunity at the Wichita Animal Shelter on weekends, so that we can have some kids. And I think this is great because they're going to have to go through the process to apply and be interviewed for 4 to 6 kennel technician internships at the animal shelter. And I'm really excited about this partnership because I think it gives them a little bit of money that they can earn. They can also continue to have that experience. Yes. So I'm very excited. I'm so happy Chief Ramsey agreed, and the animal shelter agreed. And this is a good thing for the animal shelter too, because it helps expand their capacity, having these kids come in and work weekends for sure. And the lieutenant over there was so fabulous about being willing to work with the kids and their schedules and understand that they're teenagers and they're going to want an occasional day off, and how he can work with that or work with their schedules. So we're very excited about that. So they should be getting those notices next week of the openings that they can apply for. Our goal for 2021 is we are past COVID, right? And that we can increase our youth to 225 and expand the number of business partners. We had a lot of positive feedback from business partners that said that if they didn't have those kids and those subsidized wages, they might not have made it. They were in a tough situation too. So it was really beneficial to those small businesses and nonprofits and departments that were able to take advantage of that. There was a story on KAKE this week, I don't know if you saw it, about one of our success stories. We had Isaac, who was a TWTW participant this summer, and he got placed with Wichita Transit, and he did such a fabulous job. He turned 18, applied for a full-time position with Wichita Transit and got it. And so he's now officially a Wichita trained the employee. And it was a great story. There's a link to it. Yes.
I want to chime in and say, when you said 97 out of 113 completed the program, that is 86% completion. I have to pull out the calculator.
Yes.
And although the Way to Work program has been around for 13 years, the city has had summer youth employment for over 25 years.
Right.
And I am one of those.
Oh, that's wonderful too. I didn't
I
know
tell
that.
every housing director. Yeah, I literally worked in City Hall for 2 different summers and circled back to life, and I'm employed with the city. And to come back in and see people, I'm like, oh, you're getting older. Don't you remember me? And they're like, be quiet. But yes, so thank you for investing in our youth.
Yes, and we actually submitted the Way to Work program for a national award and won with the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials. So we have won an award of merit for an innovative resident service program. So we're very excited. We love Way to Work. Next year, we're talking about maybe even integrating if we can, the internship, the social worker internship program, to be able to have an intern working with these same kids, because this year we discovered some things that were going on in some of these kids' lives. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to help. We need to get them more help. And so it's part of the reason why I talked about creating the internship program kind of generic, so that we could deploy that same resources in another means. So I'm hoping next year we're going to be able to have an MSW intern be able to be there for these kids for the whole duration of the Way to Work.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the next item is the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. It provides rent assistance for low-income individuals and families to lease housing in the private marketplace. Before we were talking about public housing, and that's where we actually own and maintain and manage the properties, and anyone who moves into those properties gets their rent subsidized. This sister program is a little different in that families qualify for the program and lease units in the private marketplace, and we provide a rent subsidy based on their income. So we did open the waiting list for the program for the first time since 2018. We opened it on July 22nd. The waiting list is still open. There's a link there that anyone can apply. It takes about 5 minutes to apply. You can use a phone, a tablet, or a computer, and our neighborhood resource centers have been great, along with the libraries, and helping people if they have challenges or don't have the means or the equipment to be able to apply. And since we've already pulled the first 900 names of those who applied in July, and are working with those families to determine eligibility and issuing vouchers. So we're definitely seeing some movement in that program.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No.
Do you have 900 vouchers?
No. I'll be honest with you, no. We use our experience to know we contact the first 900, only about half of them respond. And this is on a list that's only a couple months old. That happens, it actually gets worse and worse the older the list is of the number of people who respond. But yeah, in our own experience, about 50% respond, and then about 2/3 are eligible. Because a lot of people come in, they're over income, we have other criteria. Then they get issued a voucher, and only about 50% of those people are successful in leasing up. So yes, it takes me 900 people to fill 200 spots. We do have 200 spots open, so we're working with that. We got caught in a predicament last year. We were in a situation where we didn't have enough funding for the number of people that we had on the program. We were what HUD called shortfall. We were going to be $1.6 million in shortfall, which if we jumped through hoops and worked with HUD to attain additional funding, so we didn't have to terminate people from the program. But from July of 19 through the end of the year, we were forbidden from moving anybody onto the program, which brought our leasing down, because they didn't, they were trying to reduce the amount of money they were going to have to give us to fill the gap, which put us behind the 8 ball. We were like 600 units down by January 1. We started ramping up things, and then COVID hit and things got even more challenging. So we are trying to recover from that. And that's why we have a couple of hundred openings that we're trying to fill.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd like to share another success story with you, because here at Atwater, we love to praise versus cry. And a woman came in and she had written a letter to her housing department, let's say case manager for lack of better words, to say that she was married and no longer needed the program.
That's a
And
success.
coming off, and so she was excited to, her handwriting and scanning it to her worker. And she even brought Miss Julie at the front desk a thank you card for always working with her.
Very nice. Yeah, those are the things we celebrate. Absolutely celebrate. Sometimes I get the call and someone will be like, my rent went up. I'm like, that means your income went up. That's a good thing. You know? Come on. You know? Let's keep that going. Which runs us right into family self-sufficiency, which is great. Family self-sufficiency is a program within a program. So it is a voluntary program for anybody who's participating in the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. And we receive money from HUD for coordinators, case managers, to work with families who want to develop and attain goals related to education, employment, home ownership, transportation, childcare, everything, the whole gamut. And so we can't force anyone to participate, but anyone who wants to participate can. And it's all about increased earned income. And so the way the program works, if a family comes into the program, sits with their caseworker, they set a 5-year plan and they set goals. And if they come into the program and their income's $100 a month, they're going to pay $30 a month in rent. But they're working through the program. By month 3, they get a part-time job. And now their income's $1,000 a month. I'm using nice round numbers. Their rent's going to be $300 a month. They're going to pay their landlord $300 a month. But we're going to put $270, the difference between when they came on and what they're paying now, into an escrow account every month. Now, time goes on and they go full-time, or they get a better job and their income is now $2,000 a month. They're going to pay their landlord $600, and we're putting $570 a month into their escrow account. They continue to meet with their case manager, hit their goals. When they complete all of their goals, they get every penny that's in their escrow account. It's a fantastic, it's one of my favorite programs. They're not required to go into homeownership. If they're interested, we work with them to work with others to try and be able to use that check. We just did a check for $21,000 last month, and to be able to be a down payment on a house or whatever else that it is that they need. It's completely voluntary. This is where I said one of my goals, and by January 1, we're going to have this group and IFD staff combined. Because I think if you combine the resources of both, it just creates a stronger program. We can take training resources from IFD and work with people who are in self-sufficiency. I kind of laugh there on different sides of the city, of my floor on City Hall. And they do, FSS has a budget class and IFD has a budget class. They're not the same class, but I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Let's do one class and bring that all together. And so that we're working on that right now. So as of January 1, we're going to bring those two divisions together to try and leverage those resources and have a stronger program overall. So that's in the works. And then as a piece of that, anyone who participates in family self-sufficiency can also participate in the voucher homeownership program. And that is a part of the Housing Choice Voucher Program that would allow us to pay mortgage subsidy rather than rent subsidy. So where normally we're paying a monthly payment to the landlord, we're paying it to the mortgage company. The hard part on that is family has to qualify for a mortgage. So we don't get a whole lot of takers in this arena, but we try, all the people working with FSS, we're like, okay, can we get you to being able to do this? There's a 15-year limit. Most mortgages go to 30 these days, but they can receive subsidy for the first 15, up to the first 15 years. My experience in this is most people who are suitable that work with this, have the income, they don't make it 15 years. They end up making more money then they no longer qualify for a subsidy, but that's a great thing.
Yes.
That's a fabulous, that's a win.
Income out versus age out.
Exactly. So it is another opportunity. And again, that will be folded in with us grouping the IFD group and the self-sufficiency group. I think I need to rename it. If I'm really going to get them to meld, we need to rename it.
So let me play, I'll say little devil advocate and ask, how often do families currently in the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher hear about family self-service program? Is it just the first time I get in? Do I hear it annually, quarterly, so I can make a decision? Like, okay, I think I need to get it in now. I didn't want it last time.
They were at every annual, they get the information about how to enroll in family self-sufficiency. So yeah, most the first year they come in, they're so focused on getting the rental assistance for the yes. That first year they don't generally engage. The ones that are really going to engage, it's usually year 2 or year 3 that we see them. If it's year 8 or 9 on the program, they're usually not where we're seeing people engaging in family self-sufficiency. Yeah.
Just thanks for keeping the offer on the table.
Yep.
Because sometimes we will say, oh, we're providing, it's available. Okay, but do we re-engage?
Right. And it's just every year at their annual at that point. Once in a while, we'll send out another, just kind of blanket notice. Hey, they're accepting applications. Don't forget, this is an opportunity. I wish we had more families that did participate than what we do, because it's a great program.
Got a Facebook question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about Lexington Law? It is everywhere now.
Lexington Law?
So the question is, what is Lexington?
Yeah.
I'll Google that.
That's one I haven't heard.
Little break time. Lexington Law. So initially it says credit scores and credit reports can be approved by following the steps and process laid out by firms like Lexington Law and others that have expertise and experience in dealing with this complex system. So I think it's about changing your bad credit to good credit. That's the best summary I can.
Yes,
Okay.
you're supposed to offer credit building.
I don't know the organization themselves, so I would not, promote or not. I mean, working on credit, it can be one of the biggest things. I talked to my son, he's 16, and I said, your credit score can really change your life. What you have access to, the amount that you pay on loans, and how important it is to try and repair or keep a good credit score, it can follow you for decades. And so it's very, very important. And the sooner that someone can start working on their credit, the better. We do contract, and we have with Consumer Credit Option here, which is a HUD credit counseling and a HUD housing counseling agency. Those ones that have those accreditations are the ones that I would be more likely to be looking at when looking at credit repair. But it is very, very important. And anybody who's thinking, we can have someone with absolutely sufficient income to support a mortgage, but with a bad credit history is one, either going to pay way too much, or two, not be able to secure a mortgage. So it's one of the first things in both IFD and family self-sufficiency that they look at is what needs to be done to repair any credit and what kind of habits can be created to try and sustain that credit.
I would also come back and say, they're just a law firm.
Okay.
It's not a law, it's
Okay.
a law firm.
Okay,
And they're in different cities.
I've
So
not heard of that one.
That's what
Yeah.
Google, that's what Google
Thank
Let
said.
me add, because she added that it's $129 a month. So let's talk about Power CDC and Habitat. They offer free credit services. And one of the things that Power CDC especially is we'll look at credit first. And if it's not where it needs to be, they'll help you, again, free, build that credit, get to a point where you can get a mortgage and then purchase a home. And I think all of our cholos have some form of free service. And they also work with housing. So let's look more towards free and not the $129 a month.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. That was the last program that I have today.
All Awesome. Well, wonderful presentation. Let's pause for a minute or so to see if there are questions from social media on all of the wonderful information you heard. And again, while you're thinking, remember that even after this, you can go back and watch this. And I encourage you to really know what housing does. And I would even fair to say that this still isn't everything housing does. They do quite a bit, and it's all really good. So
We definitely have homeowner repair services. We have services and programs for additional services for first-time home buyers that help with down payment assistance. I don't know that I've ever sat down and wrote it all down. Every single thing we do. We fund the CHAMPS, the Combating Hunger program for after-school meals and summer meals. It's just amazing, all of the different nuances and programs that are operating. And I do want to give a kudos to the staff. My staff have been diligent. It's been very challenging with COVID. We do have all these additional resources and all these new programs coming out, and no additional staff to try and do it. So they are spread very, very thin, but so dedicated to providing these services to the community. And I can't give them enough credit. It is a challenging place to be right now, but in its own way, it's exciting. We do have a couple of new things, and I'm really excited to launch and be able to prove that these types of programs have long-lasting effect to try and secure funding, permanent funding in the future in different ways.
Hi, I have some chat comments and from Zoom, and one of them says Habitat will assign a personal budget coach. Don't pay a lawyer. And then there's a citizen on here, Rashida, and she has some ideas about some property that is wants to know who owns some property in the community. So I put in the chat my name and email for me to have follow up with her. So if you hear me, Sheila, call me, email me. I'll put my information in the chat. Then a question of how do landlords learn to fill out the impact survey? Well, that survey is listed in the district or newsletter. So if you know any landlord, specifically Lonnie asked that, please share it with them. And we can email it to them, but it's in the newsletter and it's in the newsletter is also on Facebook. So please share it.
Yeah, we also sent that out through the Apartment Association of Greater Wichita, which is going to hit your larger landlords. Most of them are members. But yeah, the smaller ones are the ones that I'm afraid we won't be catching, and that's why we put it out through Nextdoor and the city's Facebook page, and trying to get landlords to complete that. So
one question from Facebook: is the rental housing low interest revolving loan program still available?
yes, it is. Yes, and Mark Stanberry is the contact for that.
So Tamiko, in the chat should be a post of Mark's email address. So reach out to him. If you scroll up in the chat, you'll be able to see it.
And when in doubt, call Atwater.
They do a great job connecting people to us. Yes.
I'd also like to give a shout out to the home improvement loan programs to the city.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't ask you to share that, but that flyer is here at Atwater's on the city webpage for those who own homes to get some home improvements, and they must qualify based on federal property guideline level, and some landlord assistance too that you have to qualify for. Historic buildings.
We have a historic loan program. We're in the middle of a lead grant for dealing with lead-based paint, and that's for homeowners or landlords. So if they have a home that was built pre-1978, we can get in there and do the testing, and then we also have the funds to do the rehabilitation, so long as the property is owned or leased by a low-income family with a child under the age of 6. So that program is also in the works. So like I said, you're going to remind me of me. Oh yeah, this we do. We do really great things. Unfortunately, resources are scarce. That's why I say, again, complete the census, please. The more resources we have, the more we can do in the community.
Yes, let me highlight that again. Complete the census. If you like anything you heard this morning, make sure everyone you know has completed that census so we can continue to do more. And as you heard, the budget typically is the issue. The more people that complete the census, the bigger the budget. to do all of these wonderful things. So again, get that census done. You still have time.
You are at 11:08 a.m. We've had a full District 1 breakfast conversation. No food.
No food. Soon, 2021, we are hoping to be back to having some food. And when Sally comes back, we'll have eggs and bacon and biscuits, Spice Merchant coffee. Well,
Okay, anyone on Zoom have any parting questions, concerns, comments? You can unmute yourself and share before we sign off.
If anybody hasn't met Sally Stang,
Ian,
I said if anybody hasn't met Sally Stang, they
hold on a
should.
second, we can't hear you.
that's all.
I'm never unhearable. Sally Stang's a great person. Make sure you meet her.
With the orange.
Amen.
It just came out.
And can you try to say something now?
Make sure you meet Sally Stang. She's an incredible human being. We're lucky to have her in Wichita. Thanks, Sally, for a great presentation and all your work.
Thank you, Ann.
Anyone else on Zoom have a parting words before we exit stage left? You're muted. I heard you say it again.
Oh, sorry. Is there grant money for people who want to start a business in their community that to help their community?
Yes, that's not through the housing department, so I put my email and phone number in the chat for you to call me at Atwater Neighborhood Resource Center.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, parting words.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't see any questions on Facebook either. So just want to thank Sally for being here today. Again, amazing presentation. I think you all see why I said what I said before she started. She is a wealth of knowledge and has done wonderful. Definitely thank all the folks in the housing department, from the folks you see when you walk in up to Sally. Everyone's working really hard to serve you, especially during this tough time in this city and this country. So I appreciate all the work Sally continues to do, and you saw some of that today. Please help us spread the word about all of this amazing work. During our budget process, we heard a lot of folks that had concerns about what the city of Wichita does. Now you're hearing a lot of what the city of Wichita does, and again, it's through this department. So please share this far and wide so folks know what's going on. Thank you all for tuning in. And one small item, I've had a lot of questions about youth football. So youth football from the city of Wichita perspective is not happening. There is another league that started by some folks who wanted to have youth football anyway. And I think they're using the South Y and Stryker, but that's not a city sponsored youth league. They are having games and doing that. I've seen a few posts, so I'm hoping everybody's socially distanced and folks who are in close proximity are wearing masks. But at this point, the city had not offered to do a fall season. That will be spring. There have been concerns about WPD being there as a part of the city's youth league. That's a part of the actual cost. So WPD would be there. This new league would have to secure their own security. And with the city taking the stance of not having or supporting youth football, I'm not sure that would happen through our department, but there are other security firms around the city that might be an option for those playing football. So wanted to put that out there. I keep getting asked about that. Before we go, remember, you come to our resource centers, you can get a cloth reusable mask. If you don't have one, you can come here just for this, but always encourage you to check out all the resources that are here, not only at Atwater, but Colvin and Evergreen as well. We do have those cloth reusable masks to give out that are not the same as the paper towel that you saw at the meeting.
monthly report. In September, we gave over 1,000 masks away.
Awesome. 1,000 masks going away in September. And that also highlights how busy the center is. So with Sally being here, this is one of those community service centers that falls under the housing department. And this is the work, again, that we do. This is the busiest center in the city of Wichita. So 1,000 going out, we have a little over 1,000 people that show up here every month. So this is a wonderful place to be. If you need any help, have any questions, always come to Atwater, or you can call Atwater 303-8018, and we'll help you out. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next month. We'll have another great presentation for you, and have a safe Halloween. Remember the guidelines. Try to socially distance. We're almost through this. Oh, register to vote. Vote next month. Go to ksvotes.org.
13th.
Yeah, November 3rd is election day. Make sure you register to vote by October 13th. You can go to ksvotes.org. Again, make sure you're registered. If you have changed your name, got married, moved in the last year, last 2 years, go to ksvotes.org. Make sure all your information is up to date anyway, just to be safe. If you don't feel safe going to a in-person voting opportunity, you can also request an advance mail-in ballot and vote by mail. But do your civic duty, complete the census, make sure you vote. We'll see you next month.